Meghan Markle will be releasing a new documentary on Netflix to reveal the terrible difficulties she has faced dealing with Princess Kate's cancer diagnosis. Is it true or is it false?
Oh, nothing goes past her to earn a buck or two. I'm sure it's true.
We saw the dog biscuit incident last week where she attempted to upstage Kate with some dog biscuits. And then there was that weird situation where she started releasing photos on Princess Charlotte's 6th birthday. What is she like? Do you think she literally sits in America plotting how to upstage the royal family with various types of savoury snacks?
I mean, I don't know about the savoury snacks. I can't comment on that. But I think that it's quite clear that she has to keep the momentum going. We can't have a week off, even if it's the smallest thing. But I do think that, you know, regardless of Kate and Meghan, this was a week for Prince William and his big stage with Taylor Swift and acting like a dad. I mean, he was the one that came out on top there. But yeah, Meghan Markle.
I tell you what, I don't understand though, Maddie. If it was my brother, even if I was estranged from him, even if I'd had an argument with him, the idea that both your father and your wife are ill and you're not turning up to assist, I'd be on the next plane.
I know. And I do wonder, because I'm not saying that I'm a huge fan of Meghan and Harry, but I do wonder if you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Like, if he came to the UK and was supportive, would, UK residents just tell him to, chuff off back to the US? Or would they embrace him and say, yes, you should absolutely be here for the family while they're going through this time? But, it is...
I think, Sam, that's a reasonable point. I mean, she has poisoned the well so much now that if she did turn up and attempted to help, then people would go, oh, she's only here to grab the limelight.
Yeah, I just don't think she wants to anymore. Look, Meghan is interested in one thing, and that is her repeat performances in the Victim Olympics. And you can only imagine the tears, right, when she discovered that Kate had cancer. Tears not for Kate, right, but tears because all of a sudden she was no longer the most wronged member of the royal family. And look, this week is a really important week, actually, because the royal family are welcoming the Emperor and Empress of Japan. There's that slightly hilarious photo of Prince William at 6 foot and the Emperor of Japan at less than 6 foot.
He's only a little fella, isn't he? But he's not as bad as the Irish president, that little Higgins fella.
Little Higgins.
He's great, isn't he?
It's Alex Higgins, isn't it?
Alex Higgins. I think it's Michael, actually.
Oh,
it's the President of Ireland. He's saying, I'm not short like a leprechaun, how dare you?
Couldn't reach that high.
Yeah, that's right. Let's try and get that off. Anyway. But look, do you reckon, Jonny, there is any way that Meghan will manage to weave herself into the Princess Anne falling off a horse?
I think there's inevitable, because, of course, we all know that in her famous show, the one with the suits in it, she rode a horse into work, didn't she?
Did she?
Because the underground system, and wherever they were, Chicago or Toronto or wherever it were, she had to ride a horse. So probably, yes, I've made that up, like she will.
Yeah,
She'll make it up.
That's right. She's just worried about her truth.
Yeah, her truth. It's right out
it's like, there's the truth, and then there's not the truth. There's not your truth.
Yeah.
That's her lived experience.
I mean,
no, it's not. It's bull.
It comes to something, though, when Princess Anne has literally been kicked in the head by a horse and she's still the sane member of the royal family.
I know.
I'll tell you what, do you remember what the Duke of Edinburgh said about Princess Anne? If it doesn't eat hay or fart, she's not interested in it.
But isn't she?
Is that why she's only been married twice?
Isn't she the most popular royal, Princess Anne?
Oh, by a long way.
Just by keeping quiet.
Yeah, she just seems like she's absolutely normal and just doesn't give a crap.
Yeah.
She's very hardworking as well.
Yeah.
She turns up.
Yeah.
She turned up to the opening of an envelope. I will say one thing, right? I live in the town of Windsor, and the royals accept invitations in Windsor when they're not even sent them because they just want to do everything in the town. The Duke of Edinburgh opened up a Chinese takeaway, whereas Her Majesty the Queen opened up a refurbished classroom. Right? They're like, why are these people turning up to all this stuff? But it's like, we're not having anybody else opening things in our town. We're here cutting
Great
things.
idea.
OK, so, Jonny, do we think that Meghan Markle is making a documentary about how awful it's been for her that Kate has cancer? Is it true or is it false?
I would say my firm opinion, it's got to be true.
It is, in fact, false. For once in her life, she's not responsible for doing something narcissistic. OK, Maddie.
Yeah.
Donald Trump has warned Joe Biden might take cocaine before this week's presidential debate and is demanding a drug test. Is it true or is it false? It's Joe, not Hunter, right?
I think it's true, but I don't know if it's cocaine. I think he has. Well, I know that the former White House doctor, Ronnie Jackson, has written a formal letter to Biden asking for a drug test pre and post the, much anticipated debate tomorrow. But I don't know if it's cocaine. I think it's. Or maybe it is. If that keeps you going, maybe it is.
I think the most recent world leader who was on cocaine was Adolf Hitler, and he was a wrong 'un. I think we can all agree.
We can all exclusively.
I don't think that. I think it's quite clear as day that if Joe Biden were to be taking cocaine, he would quite literally drop dead. He's 80,
right. Well, mind you, Joe Biden would drop dead if you went boo. But it's amazing, isn't it? This debate. I mean, what do you think it's going to be like, Sam?
Well, it's kind of like the great geriatric clash of your lifetime, right? We've got an 85-year-old up against a 79-year-old. One of them might nod off. The other one might be arrested. I mean, it comes to something, doesn't it? Our dear American cousins, who I love very much, when I hesitate to say this, these are the best two you can muster. And it wasn't like that the last one was any better or the one before that was any better. I mean, the American presidential system seems to be doing a pretty shoddy job, actually, of working out who are the best candidates to put up by both major parties.
Actually, and I think there's many great things about the United States of America, but if you were looking for who was the worst ever American president, it's a tough field.
Yeah.
It is a tough field.
Yeah.
There's been some real absolute disasters. But look, if you... Oh, this is a poison chalice of a question for Jonny.
Oh dear.
Right.
I'll get me coat.
If you were advising Joe Biden ahead of the presidential debate, what would you tell him to do? I'd tell him to not go.
Yeah, that might be an idea. It might be a way of actually navigating him out of this, and then Trump can make a few more headlines. It might be better than what happened to him on every Instagram or Twitter feed that you've seen recently, where suddenly he burbles in Swedish from absolutely nowhere. In real time, this guy is getting old. It's not easy for him. It might be easier for Trump to goad him because this election is Trump versus anyone but Trump.
Yes.
So that way he's going to get a 40-odd% of the vote, whatever happens. He could still win this because he's not Trump.
But what about...
Best to be conservative.
Maddie, what about the idea that some people wear earpieces to get information during debates? Do you reckon, that might happen? I mean, look, I just want to show you this earpiece, so at least I'm not being a hypocrite.
You want to show the earpiece and how it can be deceivingly small, and the audience won't notice that.
That is an inch.
Yeah, you literally won't see that. Look,
I know comment on a man's earpiece.
But look, Biden has he has no appointments, nothing on the schedule from about Sunday through to this Thursday, because his team is clearly, vetting him, getting him ready for this debate. And I sadly have to disagree with you, because I think he can't escape doing this.
Really?
It's the earliest there has been a presidential election, but oh my God, you cannot hide in the shadows any longer.
No.
By the way, when you say vetting him, are they considering having him put down?
Yeah. I think they just, I don't even know. You obviously have a week. They've quite literally said you're not doing anything, no media, nothing for a week.
For every American that took the mick out of the Soviet Union for rodding the back of the dead and wheeling them out in Red Square. The turkeys have come home to roost now, because there's no doubt that this is like Brezhnev.
This is like Chernenko against Andropov. And they were around, weren't they, for an aggregate year, weren't they?
Yeah, that's right. Those three of them.
Yeah.
Chernenko, Andropov and Brezhnev. And basically, they all lasted about 3 weeks, didn't they?
And then, Gorbachev, who was amazingly under 60, took it over and then ruined the whole business.
Do you know, my mum always used to say about Gorbachev, she said, I reckon when he was born, his mum went, don't worry, no one will see it when the hair grows. And then he was as bald as a goose.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyway, Maddie, has Donald Trump demanded a drug test on Joe Biden? Is it true or is it false?
I'm going to say true.
It's absolutely true.
Yes.
OK, Sam, a city in the United States which voted for a Muslim-led council has upset everyone after it banned pride flags. Now, every single councillor is a Muslim, and it was a unanimous vote.
Well, look.
I mean, I've given away the answer, but the thing is about this, it's hilarious the way there's a clash of all these various cause groups, They don't necessarily like each other.
No, and look, there's this great act of mutual deception on both sides of what they call the red-green alliance, green being sort of Arabic green and red being socialism. And it happens all over. I mean, we've got councillors here representing the Green Party, which has got some weird and wacky views on the sort of very basis of who human beings are, that are electing councillors that celebrate their victory with chants of Allah Akbar and are calling for the end of the Israeli state. So, look, this is happening all over, and this is going to be the big clash of our lives. But I just wonder, actually, the new modern pride flag, where you've got the blue and the pink for the trans, you've then got the black and the brown, which is meant to represent them as well, because, of course,
Black Lives Matter.
Black people, brown people, trans people, gay people, it's all the same
Village
stuff. They
people.
should just get, fed into one great pot and take over the world.
Now, I've got to say one thing, Jonny. When are we going to raise the money for the field trip for Queers for Palestine?
Yeah, I'll send them off straight immediately. Because there is as Sam said, there is the schism between the red, the green and the alliance. There it is. There you put the black in the middle and you have the Palestinian flag. They would definitely get absolutely nowhere. My favourite one is the queer Jews for Palestine. I mean, that's
what?
like, there's some of those fellas as well. I don't know if you can call them fellas. You have to call them they and thems.
The problem, right.
Oh.
It's the queer Jews for Palestine. They're saying they just can't decide what reason to be executed for first.
Yes.
What is going on? I mean, why would a group of Jewish people turn around and be so pro-Palestinian? Is it because they just support anything that is against colonialism, as they see it?
I've got news for you. I haven't checked exactly, but I would say they're not Jewish. I think it is entirely performative. And if you've ever been to Israel, you'll know that the performative protests, which are between Islamist Mahdi army extremists and progressives, so-called progressives, these people have absolutely no idea. It is a completely parallel war that they're fighting. Useful idiots out there. So I don't think they're Jewish people, but I think they've got a lovely banner.
Jonny, is there an element? Is there an element where you chuckle a little bit when you hear, the gay community supporting a 100% Muslim-led council, then get their pride flag banned? I mean, I don't want to be discriminatory against people, but you think to yourself, well, look, if you are going to deliberately bring in people that disagree with you, then you've reaped what you sow.
Yeah, there's definitely a threat to whatever alliance it seems to work in. And we've seen the left abandon their indigenous rights ideas of nationalism over the last 20 years. And, of course, this will be the beginning of a new politics on the left, that at some point the Islamists, they'll work out that they also want to take them over. And at some point that politics will again change. It might not be while we're young and beautiful. It might take a few years, but that will happen.
But Maddie, the reality is we've already seen a process like this with women's rights, haven't we? Where, I mean, the left said they stood up for women, but now they absolutely do not. They stand up for people pretending to be women.
Sorry, I didn't expect that to take that turn.
Because Britain, America and Israel have been three of the, 6 most successful nations since the Second World War, haven't they? So it's a self-hating thing. We have enjoyed 80 years of post-war settlement and freedom. Let's back the champions, huh?
I find the whole thing extraordinary. But anyway, Sam, has a Muslim-led council banned the pride flag? Is it true or is it false?
It's true.
It's absolutely true. OK, Jonny. London Mayor Sadiq Khan has banned taxi drivers from flying England flags during the Euros. Is it true or is it false? I mean, come on, it's blatantly going to be true. It's Sadiq Khan, isn't it?
It is true, and it's disgusting. I've done my own research this very morning. I attended a greengrocer's shop, and what does a traditional British greengrocer do?
Puts apostrophes where he shouldn't.
That's number one. That's first thing. And British Racing Green cover of to the shop, beautiful.
Yeah.
He's put up England flags aplenty. Right across, because, in our country, and a lot of people from other countries understand that we in England would quite like it if England won an international tournament. And that taxi drivers, it is one of those nominal areas where if you have to have a licence, it's nominally British people who've got it, who've been here for 20 and 30 years. It's terrible. It's really terrible. And I think that the Black Cab Association should protest this and win it, and actually just stick it on the back. Just stick the crosses of Georgia on the back.
I'll tell you what they could do. They could do what the good people of Romford did a few years ago. Their council wouldn't fly the Union flag, so they just bought 5,000 of them and all did it themselves.
So what are they flying then?
They're not allowed to fly any.
Why though?
I think Sadiq Khan is trying to get ahead of it. But if you put a pride flag up, they wouldn't let them take.
But I find that confusing because it's obviously not a racist thing. Like, I'm obviously Australian and I'm here for the Euros, and this is, a new country to me, and I'm going to go for England.
But that's the thing about being from somewhere else. You would expect us to support
there is
England.
But
it is a kind of a self-hating thing.
If it's the rugby union, absolutely not. Why be going for
everybody?
England?
I do want to say there is a bonus point if you can tell us Sadiq Khan's excuse for banning the England flag.
Health and safety.
Exclusive.
He claims that the sight of the flag might cause other drivers to crash because they're distracted.
Health and safety. I win it.
Unbelievable.
Absolutely.
Unbelievable. But actually, Sam, this is this central issue, which is it's racist, it's unpatriotic to be patriotic in Britain right now.
Yeah, and George Orwell warned about this, of course, 80 years ago. He said that the only country in which it's considered to be a kind of upper class status symbol in which if you hate your own country is England, and that tendency is live and well. And of course it's unbelievable to you as an Australian coming in here to think about this, because there is no other country on earth other than perhaps America, which, let's be clear, Americans are just Brits, moved abroad.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
In which it has become fashionable to hate your own country.
Do you know my theory on this? And nobody has ever successfully persuaded me that I'm wrong. I actually believe it's related to the invasion of 1066, at which point everything French was considered posh, everything English was considered dreadful, and I think that tradition just maintains to this day. That's not the reason Sadiq Khan's doing it. The reason Sadiq Khan's doing it is because he fundamentally believes that Britain should change into this bland, multicultural... Sorry, it's a bland, multicultural person. OK. Right, so, do we believe that Sadiq Khan... it's obviously true, isn't it? But here we go. Do we believe that Sadiq Khan's banned the England flag, Jonny?
True.
Why are you doing that?
Because I'm voice piece for Sadiq Khan.
OK.
He's putting words in my mouth.
Indeed. OK, it's absolutely true. No, I didn't get it either.
That Was the Woke That Was continues after the break. Welcome back to That Was the Woke That Was.
Olympic organisers have agreed to supply the Olympic Village with 100,000 condoms this year. Is it true or is it false?
Why do I want to say it's true?
I've got to be honest with you. I had a friend who works at, I think it was the Manchester Commonwealth Games and London 2012, and he said there is a lot of sex going on.
A lot of rooting.
The athletes. Do you know the awful thing about it that he did tell me? He said, basically, if a man wins a medal, he is guaranteed to sleep with an absolute unbelievable hottie. Whether a woman wins a medal or not, it's absolutely no difference. If she's very
sexist world.
If she's very attractive, she'll pull. If she's not, she won't. That is just so unfair, isn't it?
I know. I'd be absolutely fuming if that was me winning a gold medal and I'm not getting the same treatment as the men.
The other thing is, of course, about these athletes' villages, that there are people who will compete in one or two races and then just live there for a month. Yeah. And if there's nothing good on the telly,
Exactly.
But also, this is like, you guys don't have it here, or maybe you do. We have schoolies, which is like the week after you finish high school and you go away for a week with all the other...
we've all seen Summer Heights High.
Yeah, exactly. It's Summer Heights High. You go to schoolies, you're all blowing off steam after, how many years of high school and primary school before that.
Blowing off what?
Steam.
Oh, steam, yeah, OK.
So you're just, all congregating in this one area with all these like-minded people that have finished high school. It's probably the same as the Olympic Committee. They've just spent 4 years training and, fueling their bodies.
They're a bit het up.
They're all pent up and they're ready to go. As soon as they finish that, if they lose, win, who cares? There's all these people around and they're all free-for-all.
Exactly. There's also a vacuum about professional and amateur sport where you've trained and trained and trained. It is not a completely purposeful life holistically, which means that while you're waiting in your Olympic village watching another repeat or, Dave or Talk, indeed, you could be watching Talk.
Well, they're not going to... No, Jonny, I'm sorry. they're not going to go away and have sex if they've got the opportunity to watch me on tour.
Well, there's that. Yeah, but the
Those
show's not
things
long
go
enough.
hand in hand.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. They should just watch repeats.
Can I ask a question, though, about this, right? I'm no expert in this particular field.
You're no expert on Olympiads shagging.
No.
However,
No, just sex.
But, these things, I'm aware, come in different sizes, right?
What?
And I'm
He's an
aware
expert.
that, different countries have different tendencies.
Right.
So are they all provided in exactly the same size? By just random example of the Congolese and Chinese delegation offered the same size
What
condoms.
is this show?
Send those to Senegal, whereas those ones are going to Thailand.
Yeah, and I'm sure they're giving it to the girls as well.
What do you do
case,
for a
the
living?
opportunity
I'm an
arises.
international condom selector for the Olympic Games.
But do you remember that condom company where they said that they used to have small, medium and large, and then they boosted sales by large, extra large and enormous?
I'm going to go with true.
I will tell you one thing. Right, we do know that large numbers of condoms will be given out.
No, we do know that. I just don't know if it's that. Look, I'm going to say yes. I did think that this is a thing. But
Okay, so I'll tell you what, we're going to give you a clue. Whether this is true or false is related to the number. Right.
That's what I mean.
Do you believe it's 100,000?
No, I don't. But I believe that they are there. There's
Okay.
free condoms for everyone, but I don't think it's 100,000.
Okay, so you're saying false. Now, for a bonus point,
How many?
is it more or less?
It's less. Shut up. Shut up!
It's not less. So, okay, let's give the answer. It's absolutely false. The answer is 300,000.
Shut up. No, but are they given to them?
Well, I mean, what else are they going to do with them? Yeah, so they're giving out free. Can I tell you, I spoke to a friend of mine, as I say, who worked for the British delegation in various Olympic things, and they used to get one of those, those old bins before the wheelie bins came in. They used to get those full up with condoms every day.
Are they only given to the athletes?
Well, I mean, I imagine if the athletes bring somebody back. Actually, I don't think you can take.
Are they given to the people that are paying?
What attractive members of the audience?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll have that one.
You
Come
get a condom.
I'll tell you what that reminds me of. It reminds me of. Do you remember the Mamas and the Papas, the pop group? Mama Cass, that big fat lead singer. Somebody shouted to her at a concert, "Mama Cass, I love you," and she threw a key and went 356 at the Hilton across the road.
Wow.
Got the room key.
Go girl.
Anyway, I wouldn't strongly recommend doing that. Anyway, it is 300,000. So now on to Sam. Oxford University has banned women from looking at an African mask because folklore forbids women from seeing it. Is it true or is it false?
Oh, please do not let this be true. But look, I can't believe that an Oxford museum still holds an African mask, because most of these museums have sent them all back from whence they came. We saw something like this in Australia, actually, a little while ago, where there was
not across it.
Not across it at all. I think there was an exhibition that only women could go into. So it kind of balances itself out across the Commonwealth overall. Somebody there sued on equalities law and won and said they had to become
Oh my God, you're right. I do remember this.
You see, it was a whole thing.
Why don't we just let everyone into all the exhibitions and then that solves the problem?
Now, there's an idea.
Also, the other thing is, I mean, I just worry with all of this equal but different type stuff, Maddie. The reality is, the reason that these people think this mask is something that shouldn't be looked at by women is because they're wrong. So wouldn't it just be better, rather than saying to people, your hocus pocus nonsense is genuine and worthy of respect, we could just say it is a load of old crap.
What the mask is?
Well, no, the mask is no doubt very good, but there is a belief that there is magic powers that means this mask should not be seen by a woman.
Oh, well, that's ridiculous.
I think what we need to tell them is that it's not true.
Well, then let's test it by letting the women look at it.
Okay.
I think people have said similar things about my face.
Yeah, absolutely.
That it's magical, of course.
That it's magical. Women who look upon it turn to stone. Unbelievable.
I seem to be fine.
Has Oxford University banned women from looking upon an African mask?
It's got to be true.
It's absolutely and unfortunately true. OK, on to Jonny. Academics at the Science Museum in Oxford are carrying out a taxpayer-funded project to see if milk is racist. Is it true or is it false?
I'm sure that, I'm thinking that's true. Well, it's white, isn't it? Most milk is white, apart from the full fat, which is a bit yellow, and that is, of course, not going to say Chinese because we'll get into trouble.
Well, I will tell you something. It's often been said that milk is racist because most people around the world are lactose intolerant, whereas we in Europe tend not to be.
Is that right?
Really?
So if you offer milk, it's racist. It's deliberately excluding people. Well, it's like, it's like if you go to a restaurant and they serve, something that you don't like, you just don't eat it, do you?
Yeah.
No.
It's like, let's ban it because it's racist.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, nothing would keep me away from linguine Alfredo, me mushrooms with my cream. I would continue that even if it was deduced by some of the boffins at Oxford that it might be racist.
OK.
I would still go for it.
So Jonny...
Call me it.
Jonny is saying that he is not willing to give up cream in his expensive dinners, whether it's racist or not.
Exactly. Call me whatever you like. Don't keep me away from them mushrooms with me cream.
Mushrooms in cream. I mean, actually, of all the things that you can be accused of being racist for, eating mushrooms and cream is a new one on me.
Yeah. Well, it's good to introduce new ideas here.
I tell you what, though, linguine Alfredo, your Italian isn't great. That just means cold linguine.
Time and time again, we're getting all of these projects that come through. I got told that if you want to do any scientific research now, if you do not say that you believe that climate change is man-made, you cannot get any money for it. All of these projects are always proving we're racist, always proving we're discriminating. I mean, poor old Jonny didn't even know he was a racist for eating his mushrooms.
And now he is.
And now he is.
Yeah.
There's a cost associated with this.
Yeah, and look, this is a really serious issue. Each of these are about £100,000 per one of these research grants. And that means about 8 to 12 individual taxpayers have to work all year. All of that tax that they've paid that entire year is going to fund this one loony to spend the next few years writing about nonsense. And the other thing is, it crowds out resources from proper scientific discovery, right? Which is, we really need to invest in science and the research. China is knocking us out of the park on this, and instead of it, we give over our decisions over academic funding to woke committees of people at senior universities who make these ridiculous decisions, and precious research funding goes to exactly the last place it needs to.
And of course, the reason that all of these academics say that we don't think we're racist is because we don't know we're racist, but we secretly are. It's absolute madness. OK, is it true or false that Oxford is trying to prove that milk is racist on the taxpayer's expense?
I'm going to have a punt. I'm going to say it's true.
It's absolutely true.
What?
OK.
That was The Woke That Was continues after the break. Welcome back to That Was The Woke That Was.
Donald Trump has begun preparing for his upcoming debate with Joe Biden by visiting nursing homes and arguing with dementia patients. Is it true or is it false? This is damning, isn't it?
I'm going to say, I haven't followed him for the last few days, but I feel like this is false. I haven't seen him go into nursing homes.
I think the likelihood that he is role-playing by finding people suffering from dementia.
I think if you're that he's been making these videos of Biden walking into nursing homes and, pretending that it's the White House nursing home with him and Nancy Pelosi walking in there. So, he's definitely doing that, making these hilarious, skits for his Truth Social page. But I don't know if he's actually gone into one. But a voter is a voter, so... Yeah,
but this question really invites you to believe that Donald Trump is asking people suffering from dementia to pretend to be Joe Biden, so he's got some experience of how to deal with somebody with dementia.
When he takes the stage tomorrow.
Yeah, and it's Sam, would that be helpful?
Well, who knows? Actually, in British politics, politicians love going to retirement homes in election campaigns because they say it's the only captive audience you've ever got.
That's right.
You go in there, they've all got postal
Apart
votes.
from the prisons.
They're sat there, and if you can do some kind of act or, sing some Vera Lynn, you're onto a winner.
I'll tell you my favourite ever story.
Or Jim Reeves.
Actually, I was going to tell you my favourite ever story about an election, but it involves an election candidate, so you'll have to wait for next week.
Ooh.
OK.
That's a trail.
Indeed. So, Maddie, has Donald Trump been harassing the elderly in order to learn what Joe Biden's going to be like in the debate? Is it true or is it false?
It's false.
It's absolutely false. OK, Sam. Rishi Sunak has just sent another illegal migrant to Rwanda with a 3,000 golden goodbye. This is the second one to leave since April. That is 2, Sam. You can't complain.
Well, it would be, but it is false. There is no way anybody else has got on their plane. It was hard enough for them to find one desperate fellow who got here, and he was lied to about the weather. Didn't like it very much. So they said Rwanda was a bit warmer. Look, nobody's got on the plane. They've spent £437 million on this programme. It's about to get shut down probably when Keir Starmer wins the election, and that bloke will forever be the $437 million man.
Oh, wow.
Oh, what a good point. Do you buy this argument that the Irish Republic makes, that the reason for their immigration problem is that people are unwilling to stay in the UK because of Rwanda?
I mean, it might have made a bit of an effect. I think all politicians like to blame everybody else for their refusals to do what's necessary with migration. I mean, look at it. It's all over Europe. You've got mainstream politicians that have ignored the public for years. They're getting punished at the polls, and they are blaming just about everyone else. And the truth is, there's only one way you solve this, which is what we all know. You deliver an Australian-style system where if you come into the country illegally, you're going home, come what may. That's the end of the story. That's the only way you solve it. Politicians haven't got the guts to do it.
Maddie.
Oh, God. Don't quiz me on.
Nothing affects debate about immigration in Britain more than Australia.
I know, it's always
we're
brought in.
obsessed
I
with
know.
Australia. Right, I just want to know, first of all, like, is it a myth that they turned round all these boat people and just towed them back to wherever they come from?
No, the thing is that the border force is really strong on the water, and it has to be said that you can't compare Australian immigration to a lot of other countries. We're literally an island. Like, we couldn't be further away from. It's not the same as migrating from France or migrating from Africa, like, to come to the UK.
Yeah.
But there's so much strict border force sitting on the water. So I do think, I mean...
What would happen with an Australian voter if a boat came from, say, Vietnam or whatever,
Yeah.
and the border force were to say, we don't know what country it's from, therefore everyone on board has to stay permanently in Australia? Because we have had that with the border force. The border force literally sit in the English Channel, which, by the way, is between Britain and France. That's a clue. And then they both come from a French beach and they go, we don't know what country it's come from. Oh, come on. I mean, most people know that Calais is in France, right? Come on. Right? And you would hope the border agency would know.
I think they do know, and I think they usually turn them around, in which case there's been obviously different cases where they've been allowed in and whatever, but the visa system or whatever it may be is that you end up having to go fruit picking in Australia, and we have a bit more room to play with.
Well, that's not really true, though, is it? Because most of it's so hot.
It's in the middle, though. It's in the middle. You've got to go in the middle of the country where there's not a lot going on.
Good old Alice Springs.
Yeah, you've got to go to Alice Springs. But look, I can't say I'm an expert on Australian immigration, but I know that it is.
Well, every British politician is, so don't worry about it. They all know what's going on.
It seems to be.
They've all got a working... British politicians have got a working knowledge of two things: the Australian immigration system and virology, apparently.
I know.
They all
but
knew about...
a lot of Aussies have immigrated here, so I don't know what you guys are doing, because I easily got
Well,
it.
my brother was a DJ in the Walkabout as well.
What?
It's the Australians. They're saying you've got to go to church in Clapham on a Sunday. Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely
now,
not.
Are you aware of this facility?
Look, okay, this is going to be really anti-stereotypical, but I've actually not even been to Clapham yet.
Right. Really?
Yeah.
Because I have to say, and for anybody watching or listening, Clapham in South London, on a Sunday, every Australian, South African and New Zealander in London who's under the age of 40 dresses in weird outfits and goes to it. And the nightclub is called Church because it starts at 10 o'clock in the morning and finishes at 8 o'clock at night, so you can still make it into work the next day. It is very strange.
I'm not going to go. I think I'm past my due date there. I think I'm too old.
No, I think you could get in. You'd be all right. Be all right. Look, you know, you're still not a bad-looking bird, if I'm being totally honest.
Thanks, Andre.
I'd have a go. I'd have a go. Anyway, I'd be willing. Right.
Oh my God!
As long as you pay.
Off
for
I go to HR.
As long as HR have given up on me. There's no point. Right. As I always say. The best thing for me to do to avoid diversity training is when they threaten it, I say, I'll come. And then they go, no, we're not having him. All right, Sam. Rishi Sunak Has he sent another one to Rwanda? The second person. Is it true or is it false?
No, he has not. False.
OK, it is absolutely true.
What?
2 people have gone to Rwanda.
That was the woke that was. Continues after the break. Welcome back to That Was the Woke That Was.
The discount website Voucher has been criticised for offering dark tourism sightseeing tours to Auschwitz. Is it true or is it false? They're offering a 29% discount where you can go back in time to the Second World War and find the dark tourism site of Auschwitz. I find it remarkably distasteful.
Well, I've been to Auschwitz this year. It was the first time I've been there, and I got absolutely no preparation for going there, even though it had been on my mind for many, many a year. Would I ever go there and see it for myself? I did go, and whatever I was thinking before I went and whatever I experienced when I was in there was very, very different indeed. You cannot prepare for this. So whether Voucher are doing it in a sort of come down, it is an extremely sobering experience. There's 2 concentration camps. There's Auschwitz, which was a purpose-built Polish barracks. They've tidied it up, if you know what I mean. They've still got birches and they've still got the terrible gas chambers.
Yes.
But they've scrubbed it up and it looks like a Polish barracks did before the horrors of the Second World War. But Birkenau, which is a jerry-built place which was burnt down largely as the Nazis tried to run away from the Soviet army, is terrible to see, with its watchtowers, with its train line, and with some of its burnt down wooden edifices which are still there, and a gas chamber which is still in the ground with all the building around it destroyed. Also, if you go in the winter and it's cold and you're fully clothed, just imagine what it was like for those people who weren't even wearing shoes, etc. I think it's fine. I think it's fine. And I think if you're a person of reason and a person of history and you're a decent human being, go and experience it. It's nothing like Voucher advertising. Just go and see it.
Yeah, but
it's sobering.
But Sam, what about this whole idea of dark tourism? I mean, funny enough, I will say, the view that Jonny's expressed, I've heard before, because obviously I present with his brother on the Thursday and Friday. Asher Gould takes the view, anything that gets people to engage with the Holocaust and understand what happens is worth doing.
Yeah.
However, selfies, and all this sort of dark tourism. I mean, Voucher appear to have rewritten this now, but originally it was saying step back in time to one of the most notorious places, a dark tourism experience and all this sort of thing. And you think, 6 million people were murdered as part of this exercise. If you want to go to understand it and pay your respect, and if it's important to keep this in the public knowledge, which I think it is, that's fine. But this would be a fun and interesting place to hang out in.
Yeah, look, I mean, it does kind of prove that there's no atrocity so grave that a tacky corporate company can't weaponise it in order to make money. But I bet you, any money on earth, I don't know this, but I bet you, if you go onto Voucher at all the relevant woke occasions on the year, they will be virtue signalling in precisely the way that all the other big corporates do. Yeah, behind that, actually, when they open up and you can look into their souls, you see the fact that they are prepared to take something like the Holocaust and commercialise it, demean it, make less of it. I broadly agree with Jonny. Anybody that goes there, and look, in my view, it ought to be mandatory, actually, for everybody, every child going through secondary school in this country to go to Germany to visit one of the Holocaust sites. I know I did it when I was at school, and I think that explosion that we've seen in anti-Semitism, particularly in certain communities, would be an awful lot less likely.
It's quite interesting because it sounds like I've got a kind of bit of minority view on this, because I refused a trip to Auschwitz. In fact, I've refused multiple times. My argument is this: if you need to go there to understand it, or for historical purposes, or to pay your respects, or whatever, do it, definitely. But don't go if your only purpose is just because you're quite interested in having a look round. However, that completely changed for me, because when I was working helping Ukrainian refugees, it was very near the Belzec death camp, which very few people have visited, simply because it's remarkably mundane. There's nothing there. I did visit that, and it was moving, and it did seem appropriate at the time.
And it probably changed your view of why it is important to go. I mean, I've thought about Auschwitz for many years, and indeed Chelmno, which is where my own great-grandparents were exterminated. If they got as far as that, they had to take a 492-mile train journey from Vienna, and they were in their 50s or even 60s, so they may not have
a lot of people didn't survive.
No. But what I experienced at Birkenau in the freezing cold with my, coat on was nothing like I'd thought about all those years. So, people should go. I don't know whether it should be mandatory, but, it is a moment of humility, whether you're Jewish, non-Jewish, whether you feel in an anti-Semitic way about things. Just go and see it, experience it, because we are all stakeholders in a society and this thing could happen again.
OK, well, look, obviously, we normally have a bit of a laugh on the show. I thought it was important to discuss this.
Yeah.
Is it true or false that Woucher have offered quite a crassly written advert offering discounted Auschwitz-Birkenau tours? Is it true or false?
I guess it's true.
It's absolutely true. OK, Maddie, a top Disney executive has been caught on tape saying there is no way they would hire a white man. Is it true or is it false?
True.
Well, do you want to elaborate?
Well, end of segment. No, first of all, I've seen the clip. So,
what's in the clip?
It's this organisation, and they do very it kind of looks like it's been filmed on someone's jacket.
Yes.
And
so it's like a little pinhole camera.
I've seen them do it before. I can't remember what the organisation's called, but he's sitting there and he just basically says, this a Disney executive, that there's no way in this, political climate, basically, that they'll be hiring a white male. And obviously, Disney's under intense scrutiny the last few years for the way that they've kind of, appropriated things to fit the political agenda and to be, I guess less divisive, but it's obviously more divisive.
I'll tell you what I don't understand. I don't understand why, just because His Majesty the King is white, we should discriminate against a working class white kid off a council estate in South London. I mean, why is that
But
reasonable?
I just think that why does everything have to cancel each other out? Like, why can't you be inclusive while also not being exclusive to white people?
Well, I'll tell you my theory. My theory is that when Karl Marx wanted to destroy society, and by the way, they talk about pulling down statues of slaves. Karl Marx's statue is still in Highgate Cemetery. I just saying. But look, he said that everything was about social class. I believe that the way that the divide and conquer system is now is to make everything about race. I think that that the people who want to destroy our society have given up on class struggle, so now they want to invent a racial struggle. My own view is Britain is becoming a more racist country. I genuinely believe that.
Well, I think that everything becomes more racist when you basically won't let people say anything for fear of retaliation, for fear that everything they're going to say is going to be wrong. You should be able to have arguments and conversations without being told you're a racist.
Australia's a bit less politically correct, though, isn't it?
You know what, Australians, look, we have our own issues with our Indigenous community, because the reality is that our Indigenous community is, it has been, taken advantage of, and it has, and they have a lower life expectancy. They have a horrible situation where the reality is that the government hasn't properly taken care of them.
Yeah.
And that's what
in the words of the pub landlord Al Murray, gingers are Aboriginals in Britain. So I am the native.
What do you mean? Your hair's not even red.
Well, it was red.
Oh.
It was.
It was.
No, I think of it as red.
Sorry.
I think of it. By the way, do you know what my producer says?
Oh, there he is.
Yes, that's my producer, Chuck Thomas, who keeps saying you look better with grey. Well, that's not been proved, is it?
Yeah, and I'm a brunette as well, so shut up.
I remember my mum was on holiday once and somebody went, "Which one's your husband?" She went, "It's a very slim one with black hair." And she said, "This little old fat man walked in." And she went, "I've got rose-tinted glasses." She said, "I remembered him as he was, not as he is."
Aww.
OK, well, anyway.
Gotta love him.
Anyway, has a top Disney executive said that they wouldn't hire white people? Is it true or is it false?
True.
It's absolutely true. And so, the final question goes to Sam. Come on, Sam.
Go on, mate.
Lucky guy.
The Just Stop Oil protesters who vandalised Stonehenge have been cursed by a local druid named King Arthur. Is it true or is it false?
Oh, well, I hope this one is true because actually these guys have done appalling damage. Now, I didn't know anything about this, but supposedly there are certain types of lichens and moulds and all the rest of it that grow on stones if you leave them out for, as these have been, tens of thousands of years. Beyond just being a site of profound historic significance and national identity to the UK, it's also a place that was a home to important parts of nature. And these guys who are prancing around pretending to care for the environment have caused
the worst thing is, Sam, one of the main things about Stonehenge that we know is we don't know everything about Stonehenge. Yeah. Yes. So when they're sitting there going, well, we know that no harm would be done. No, they don't know that, because even the leading experts on Stonehenge don't know what it is.
Yeah, and look, I do know that if you have to jet wash a piece of old stone like that, it's probably not going to be very good for it. Now, I appreciate that the firm involved, did a more sensitive thing, but the firm themselves have said, look, it's caused real and lasting damage to the stones and to the ecology of them.
Wow.
And I just think that these band of woke, adolescent, coddled losers should...
What upsets me, Sam, is that none of it is done for the purpose of making the world a better place. It's only to get a good video for Instagram. Yes. And I find it so frustrating. It was, funnily enough, we were talking about, people concerned about slavery, right? And you've got people filming, pulling down a statue on a phone made by a 9-year-old in a Chinese Lao Gai, right? The other thing is, we've then got, Lewis Hamilton, classic example. I'm very concerned about slavery. You work for Mercedes. There are very few actual modern companies that have benefited from slavery, but I'm afraid Mercedes is one of them. Yeah, and yet, none of this, and the reason why nobody cares is because it's not about that. It's about looking good on your social media feed.
Yeah, it's absolutely nonsense. There's got absolutely no skin in the game, and what they say makes a difference to people in our community. It is dangerous for certain people right out there.
Absolutely. Anyway, I'll tell you what we should do. We should just up the prison sentence. I've been told this before. I'm not allowed to advocate the death penalty on the channel anymore. Nor am I allowed to express any views on Shamima Begum at all, or supporting local prosecutors in the country that she moved to. But anyway, I think you can now guess what it was that I was advocating that went down so badly at the channel. The rope. OK, so Sam, have Just Stop Oil protesters been cursed by King Arthur, a local druid?
I can say true.
It's absolutely and unfortunately false. So that brings us to the end of the show. I want to thank my guests, Jonny Gould and Sam Armstrong. And say to Jonny, he got 500 points. Say to Sam, he got 6,000 points. Oh. But Maddie Hale, who is sitting in for Pete Barnes because he's ill, get well soon, she got 4.38 million points, which is unbelievable. Anyway, thank you so much to my panel. Until next time, goodbye.